The fluorescent lights flickered faintly as John Kennedy, a man whose name carried the weight of legacy, slipped unnoticed through the automatic doors of his own store. At 62, with silver hair and a stooped posture from years of hard work, he wasn't the kind of boss who paraded around in a suit, demanding respect. Instead, he wore a faded green t-shirt and jeans, blending seamlessly with the late-night shoppers at Kennedy's Market, the small-town grocery chain he'd built from the ground up. But tonight wasn't about routine inspections or checking inventory. Tonight, a whisper of unease had driven him here under the cover of darkness, a gut feeling that something was wrong. And as he lingered near the checkout lanes, he overheard a conversation that would shatter his heart and change everything. The voice belonged to Lily, a 19-year-old cashier with wide brown eyes and a ponytail that always seemed slightly askew. She was wiping tears from her cheeks, her blue apron crumpled as she leaned against the counter, speaking in a hushed tone to her coworker, Mike, a lanky 25-year-old who stocked shelves part-time. "I don't know how much longer I can do this," Lily sobbed, her voice cracking. "The hours are killing me, and my mom's sick, her meds cost more than I make in a week. I asked for a raise, but Mr. Kennedy's office said no. I love this place, but I might have to quit." Mike shifted uncomfortably, muttering something about corporate decisions being out of their hands, but John froze. His own name stung like a slap. He hadn't authorized any raise denials. His managers handled that, and lately, he'd been too buried in expansion plans to notice the details slipping through the cracks. John's mind raced back to the early days of Kennedy's Market, when it was just a single storefront in a dying town. He'd been a young widower then, raising his daughter alone, pouring every dime into keeping the shelves stocked and the lights on. The store had become his lifeline, and over the decades, it grew into a local institution, employing people like Lily and Mike. But success had distanced him from the floor, from the faces behind the cash registers. Now, hearing Lily's despair, he felt a pang of guilt so sharp it nearly doubled him over. He'd built this empire to help people, not hurt them. Yet here was proof that his dream was failing someone who needed it most. Determined to understand, John lingered as the night shift wore on. He watched Lily ring up customers with a forced smile, her hands trembling as she counted change. He saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the way she flinched when a rude customer snapped at her over a coupon. Later, he followed her to the break room, where she sat alone, staring at a crumpled note, likely a bill she couldn't pay. The sight ignited a fire in him. He couldn't confront her directly, not yet, so he decided to dig deeper. The next morning, he stormed into his office, demanding records from his head manager, Tom, a stern man who'd been with the company for years. The numbers revealed a grim truth. Profit margins were tight due to rising supplier costs, and Tom had been quietly cutting corners, including denying raises to keep the budget balanced. John's stomach churned. He'd trusted Tom implicitly, but now he saw the human cost of those decisions. The revelation set John on a mission. He couldn't undo the past, but he could change the future. He called an emergency meeting with his small management team, laying out a plan to audit every decision made in his absence. He discovered that several employees, like Lily, were struggling with low wages and unpredictable hours. The challenge was clear: the store needed to stay profitable while supporting its workers. John spent days crunching numbers, consulting with accountants, and even reaching out to local suppliers for better deals. It was grueling, and tensions rose when Tom resisted, arguing that higher wages would sink the business. But John stood firm, his resolve hardened by Lily's tears. He proposed a modest raise for all employees, funded by a temporary reduction in his own salary and a leaner marketing budget. It was a risk, but he believed in the store's soul and its people. Implementing the changes wasn't smooth. Some employees were skeptical, fearing the raises wouldn't last. Lily, unaware of John's involvement, confided in Mike that she'd already applied for a job at a rival store. John overheard this through the store's intercom system, which he'd accidentally left on while testing it. Panic set in. He couldn't lose her, not when he was trying to make things right. So, he decided to reveal himself. One evening, as Lily finished her shift, John approached her at the checkout, his voice gentle but firm. "Lily, it's me, John Kennedy. I heard what you said the other night, and I'm sorry. I didn't know things had gotten this bad. We're fixing it, raises start next week, and I'm here to make sure you're taken care of." Her eyes widened, disbelief turning to hope as he handed her an envelope with a bonus to cover her mom's meds. The weeks that followed were a test of resilience. The raises boosted morale, and customer loyalty grew as word spread of John's commitment. But profits dipped initially, and John faced sleepless nights wondering if he'd miscalculated. Yet, he noticed Lily's smile return, her interactions with customers becoming warmer. She even started suggesting small improvements, like a community board for local events, which brought in more foot traffic. Tom eventually resigned, unable to adapt, but John promoted Mike to assistant manager, trusting his fresh perspective. By month's end, the store stabilized, with a slight uptick in sales, proof that people valued a business that valued them. On a crisp September afternoon, John stood at the store's entrance, watching Lily laugh with a customer. The journey had been humbling, a reminder that success wasn't just numbers but the lives touched along the way. He'd nearly lost sight of that, but Lily's tears had brought him back. Addressing the staff that day, he shared a message that lingered in the air: "This store isn't mine, it's ours. Let's keep building it together, with heart." The applause that followed was more than gratitude, it was a promise. And as John walked away, he felt lighter, knowing he'd reclaimed the dream he'd started with, a legacy not of wealth, but of care.